This is the Biz News Podcast, one-on-one conversations with experts in business and personal development.
What about AI? Would artificial intelligence be a great way to get rid of a lot of customer interface problems?
So it's definitely the fear that a lot of employees who are currently in a customer service environment are concerned about. And I think that over time, when we look at technology always pushes us to a higher value jobs. You know, once upon a time before the Industrial Revolution, I mean, we were doing certain things that later on machines took over. Did that eliminate certain jobs? It did, but it did create an opportunity to actually focus more on a higher value jobs that we can do. And I think that AI will do some mundane work that we probably don't care to do anyway. But I am a firm believer that when it comes to authenticity and human touch, there will not be a replacement to a human being. And the difference is I worked with a certain bank and certain people's like, you see, we just simplified the mortgage process. And I said, that's wonderful. So now there's a much simpler process they can do online. So you as a mortgage officer can sit down and talk to them about their fears and about their dreams, about the new home that they are getting for the first time. You can add value from an emotional standpoint, which you did not have time before when you had to go through a lot of papers that was really the center of your work. So the shift is upgrade your value, be human, be authentic, add value from that perspective.
Tell us some tales from your consulting companies into getting them to be better in terms of customer interface.
That is correct. In fact, when somebody asked me, what do you do for a living? And I said, I've proven financially that the saying, do unto others what you want to do to yourself. Well, I actually proven to companies that it is a better financial way of making your numbers. Because at the end of the day, to be honest with you, CEOs, all they care about is to make their numbers. If I'll convince them that rotten potatoes will give them a higher margins, they'll sell hot rotten potatoes to their customers. But what we were able to demonstrate is that by being very disciplined and truly caring about the customers, you can convert it to a much higher loyalty and a much higher return on investment and a much higher margins and so on and so forth.
And if you don't in these days, I guess that can also spell the doom of the company.
It is in fact far more powerful than what we have seen before, because customers today are empowered with so many tools, from ChatGPT to a lot of knowledge to pricing transparency. They don't need to take it anymore. Their patience have shrunk so dramatically that their patience, like, I don't have to take it. I always have another choice. And I think companies have not realized that by keep on giving customers digital tools to run their lives, they are empowering them to a point that they take over. And 10 years ago, you had patience, and this time, not at all. I want it now.
It used to be that every Christmas time you'd take a small gift around to your best customers, but now it would seem you might want to add a small gift to everyday customers.
That is in fact correct. Customers are judging today the value that you are providing at a much higher frequency. And I would tell you more than that, Doug. When you download your customer service to your customers by giving them those electronic tools and online tools to do it, you're actually eroding the value you provide. We've done a study for a client where customers who engaged more with online tools expected the prices to be cheaper. And they didn't understand why, because they've invested so much in the technology. And what I had to explain to them is there's a cardinal rule in client relationships, and that is the one who serves is the one who keeps the margins. So if you outsource to me your customer service, then guess what? I want to keep the margins because I am now an extension of your customer service. I see myself working more and you working less. So why should you keep the prices that you used to charge me when you had those people serving me? You see what I'm saying? So actually, the digital movement have outsourced customer service to our customers, but the customers are in return saying, why am I paying the same price?
What are you doing with your company that exemplifies this?
So one of the areas that we are constantly adding value to clients is by providing them research and insights that they have not seen on their own. Because most of the clients and most of the companies are designed to run smooth processes and smooth operations, and they don't pay attention to disruptions that can potentially change dramatically the way they engage with customers. So our way of doing it is constantly being engaged in tracing the trends and interpreting the trends for them. So for example, on the issue of AI that you mentioned, I published several articles that people can reference around the fact that it changes the mindset of the customer in a dramatic way that requires reskilling the company in terms of what is their value. Most of my clients didn't see that way. They thought it was just another technology tool, but we were able to point out that right now our customers are becoming the brand, and we need to figure out how are we going to serve hundreds of millions of brands. I'll give you a simple example, Doug. Most people didn't pay attention to that. So, for over 130 years, we were taught by a company from Atlanta that if we want happiness, we just need to drink this black liquid and happiness will be bestowed upon us. And every Christmas we saw those beautiful white bears, polar bears commercials that made us feel so good if we just hold this glass bottle and we're going to drink it. And that company said, we have a recipe, we have a formula for happiness, we are saving it in downtown Atlanta at SunTrust Bank, but we own it. A couple of years ago, we were exposed to a new evolution from Coca-Cola, and that is the freestyle machines. That's where you can take your own cup and you can pour yourself 12% Fanta and 15% Sprite and the rest Coke Zero, and the outcome is absolutely outrageous, but it's your drink. And if you actually think about the strategy and the mindset behind this tool, what Coca-Cola is basically recognizing is we no longer own the formula. You own the formula. You, the customer, will decide how you want your drinks. That is a magical but radical shift in the strategy of a company that for 130 plus years have told us that the formula is secret. And now there is no secret to the formula because you and I, Doug, will create our own drinks. And tomorrow we're going to do it differently. And the next day we're going to craft it in a different way. And we are now formula creators, and Coca-Cola is a toolkit. So think about that radical change. And they realize that's what the world is looking for. Customers think that they know better, and they are empowered to a degree that they become the new brand. I do believe that there is a risk that if you constantly going to delegate your services to online services that customers need to do on their own, you're going to run the risk of diminishing returns or diminishing margins, because the customers are not stupid, and the customers are going to say, look, you're making me do all the work. I know you convince yourself that I want to do it at midnight in my pajama, but that's not true. There are moments that I need you. And the truth is, there are moments that, yes, I would prefer convenience, but there are moments that I would prefer somebody holding my hands and do it for me. That's why I go to a restaurant and not cook at home. I want somebody else to do it for me. So imagine a restaurant where they'll tell you, come to the kitchen, cook the food, and then I'll charge you the same amount that I was planning to charge you. Which customer is going to take that?
Probably not too many. How did you get into this line of work?
So I've been for the past 3 decades in the intersection between transformation, disruption, if you want to call it, and customer centricity. And when clients are forced into transformation, it's usually due to changes in customer preferences and changes in technologies. That's where they are forced into it. So the whole issue of staying ahead of your customers as opposed to behind your customer, I notice a consistent challenge where companies who are reaching a successful moment love to stay in that moment and they don't pay attention. Let me give you an example, Doug. I'm sure you love books. I love books. And I thought that Borders bookstores was the most amazing invention because you can take a book, order yourself a cup of coffee, read the book, spill the coffee on the book and not pay for it. And I thought it was brilliant. And in 1998, The company was doing very well. At that point, 675 bookstores around the country, including Walden Books, and over $2 billion in revenue, 15% growth. And they hear about this small startup from Seattle that decided to sell books online. And the board is sitting and thinking, this is the stupidest idea ever, because he can spill the coffee on it. And what about smelling the print? How can you buy a book without smelling the print? You know, we all are addicted to the smell. So in their infinite wisdom, not only do they ignore the trend and the disruption, they actually outsource it to Amazon. Borders.com was run by Amazon. They handed Amazon the largest list of the most dedicated book lovers in America.
Well, now that might go get a monument made for stupidity.
We can definitely give them that, but we don't have them anymore because they went chapter 7 and disappeared. My point is, companies get addicted to their success, don't see the disruption coming, don't see the changes coming, undermine them. They love their success. They love calm waters. They don't like stormy waters. And I found myself developing a methodology to help them. Either they reach out to me when it's crisis already, but sometimes they reach out to me when the CEO is having a vision, but he doesn't know how to change the organization to do that. So I've been in that space on a wide variety of customers. We've done a lot of work in the medical space with diabetes and dialysis and Alzheimer and other diseases. And I've done work with Mercedes-Benz and the Philharmonic of LA or the Metropolitan Museum of Art. They're all customers. They're all coming to it in an emotional way. And that's the other thing. Most companies are treating customers very rationally. They fail to relate to them or engage with them in an emotional way. And what I always tell them, the margins are in the emotions. The margins are not in the rational. So that's another transition that I've helped a lot of companies kind of learn. When I work with the luxury car manufacturers, I'm like, guys, nobody needs your car. If they need to get from point A to point B, they can buy another car, much cheaper car. You're in the emotional space. You're not in the size of engine space.
Where can people get more information from you? I suspect you've got a website.
Yes, LiorArussy.com, LiorArussy.com. There's a wealth of articles and videos that they can read. There are some references to my previous books and the upcoming book, Dare to Author, which will be released in October 29 this year. But wealth of articles that, from Fast Company and Chief Executive Magazine and Inc. and a whole bunch of other places that have published either interviews with me or articles that are all available free of charge. Please feel free to use, to share, and hopefully to get inspired.
And tell us more about your new book.
So, when I was working with organizations around transformation, one of the things that I've discovered is the fact that organizations didn't move fast enough toward adopting change was not because they were afraid of the future, but because employees and organizations got stuck with the old story. They got stuck with a story that told them to behave in a certain way, and unless they can bring that story to closure, they cannot move forward. So let me give you an example. During COVID, a lot of my clients called me and they said, we don't know what to do. And I said, there's a famous statement saying everybody has a strategy until you get a punch in the face. Now, let me start with the good news. Your competition also got a punch in the face. So now it's not a question that you have an inferior position to your competition. You're all at the same equal level. The question is, which one will get up and which one will thrive? And they said, you misspelled it. You meant survive. I said, no. I said thrive. I did not say survive. And they said, I can't even figure out how to survive. How do you want me to thrive? And I said, why can't you figure out how to survive? And he said, because it's unprecedented event. And I don't know how to deal with it. And I said, while you are factually correct, let me explain to you something. When you say it's unprecedented event, you also say, I'm helpless. I don't have the tools to deal with it. So let me do a simple exercise with you. And that's what I've done with a lot of clients. I said, when was the last time you felt that way? When was the last time you felt helpless and unprecedented event? And one client said, you know what, Lior? 2008, 2009, major financial crisis. We were stuck. I said, great. And here we are in 2020 talking. So you survived it, right? So here's what I want to do. Leave COVID aside. Let's talk about 2008, 2009. What did you do? What did you do? What happened there? How did you feel? What was the turning point? What values came to life? And what we've done is we literally wrote the chapter, kind of like a case study of how the company survived 2008, 2009. And I said, okay, so what tools did you use? What worked for you? What didn't work for you? Through that, when we concluded that chapter, we realized we do have tools for unprecedented events. What happened is because they did not author that chapter of 2008, 2009, they came to 2020 without tools for unprecedented events, even though they had them, but they didn't author the chapter to help them get there. And my argument in the book is when we feel helpless, when we feel victims, is because we did not author previous chapters of our lives and we did not convert them into strength and resilience. And this is what the book is all about. This is what the book is all about, how to understand that when you are acting as a victim, you are giving agency to others to run your life. It's not a great life to live. You can take back that situation, even if it's unprecedented, even if it's beyond your control, even if you did not plan it. Heck, we didn't plan to get born into this world. Nobody asked us if we want to get born, you know? And then I am explaining in the book with prompts of questions how to start authoring your previous chapters in order to equip yourself with resilience and readiness for the future. And this can be applied individually. This can be applied to organizations. This can be applied to personal relationship or to leadership or to teamwork and a whole host of other things. So that chapters that are applying the authoring process to a variety of scenarios.
Would you take a moment to comment about anything we have not talked about that you want to get out?
Yes. When you do not author your life chapters, you actually are not paying attention, but the cynical voices in your head are running your life instead. The imposter syndrome is a great example that I talk about in the book. Many of us are feeling it. We are afraid to say it. We are ashamed to say it. But the reality is when you do not author it, that imposter syndrome, this cynical voice is taking over and it's actually shaping your decisions. I'm talking about another thing. For example, I challenge people in the book, bad news or good news, what do you want to hear first? And the majority are saying bad news. And I said, you know, this is a mindset issue. Bad news, you're a fixer. Good news, you're a creator. Bad news, you're looking to how to stabilize the situation. Good news first, I want to see where the opportunities are. And this is challenging people to say, yeah, but I'm usually a bad news person. I said, I'm not sure that's a good thing. And I'll give you one last one. I call this the gratitude denial syndrome. How often, you know, we sit down in a performance evaluation or somebody's providing us feedback and we say, okay, just go to the bad things. Okay, go to the bottom line, because we're sitting there with anxiety, like there is a punchline that's going to be negative. And what happened is that all the good things that were said to us before were kind of deny or dismiss or not take into account. And my argument in the book is that when you do that, you rob yourself from the fuel that you need for the future. Why do you think that the negative feedback is more important than the positive feedback? Why do you rob yourself from the fuel and the energy that you need for the future? And I challenge people to rethink how they engage with compliments. How do they engage with gratitude? How do they engage with good feedback? Because those are your strengths. Those are the foundation to your superpower. If you're going to deny them, you'll never rise up to your best capabilities. And that's an example when you don't author your life story, when you don't author those chapters, you resign to those biases, to those negative thoughts, to those cynical voices, and it affects everything.
You've been listening to the Biz News Podcast. We welcome your input. Send your email to editor@biznews.com. That's bizgnus.com. Thanks for listening.